Okay, my YouTube friends, today we're going to go back to the past again, back to the 50s. It's actually kind of a compilation of mostly 40s and 50s stuff with a little modern stuff thrown in at the end. I tried to make a pretty comprehensive cable training video, and starting out with this first one from Reg called The Importance of Cable Training. And I don't think that was just an advertisement on Reg's part. I think, and Grimek is in here as well. So we're gonna seg from Park to Grimek, kind of midway through. Unfortunately, they both mention leg stuff with cables, but they don't show any. And I tried. There are a couple spots where there's descriptions of exercises without pictures, but not too many. And I think most of the explanations are reasonably self-explanatory. Of course, it talks about the versatility of cables, that they're inexpensive, that they're accessible, they're light, you can take them on a trip. And in fact, I guess it's been about a year now. I posted, maybe not that long, the Chuck Sipes cable training, which was with Dennis Weiss, and Chuck used it a lot because in his work he was out in the field, like out in the woods. He worked with youth where they had like sort of outside camps and stuff. Didn't have access to a gym or weights, so he used the cables quite a bit. And of course, Grimek and Park both mention that. I'm going to throw in some of these ads for other spring type devices, like you see here with the crusher and the iron shoe. And I believe I have a magazine which has a full course, and I think it's the iron shoe. Of course, again, limited to the upper body. There's Grimek. Now he mentions about that he prefers the bands because they're more versatile and adjustable to the individual. And of course, second exercise here is the chest pull, which is that famous one where you're pulling it up against your chest and possibly pulling your hairs out. There's Reg, and that's quite an expander set there. I don't think many of us could pull that out to its full extension, but of course Reg could. He's a strong dude. So mostly chest, shoulders, triceps, upper back stuff. And again, at the end of the video, we'll segue into the more modern, just tube type bands, which do kind of lend themselves to doing legs a little better. Although we will show some leg stuff that you can do with cables. A lot of different triceps things, and I think cables are very versatile, and I'm not sure why they've fallen out of favor so much. You see very little use of them, like by YouTube influencers. Although I know Alex Leonidas, who's one of my favorite natty guys, does like using the expanders, and he thinks they're really good. Now, nobody is suggesting that you throw the weights away. Reg even mentioned something to that effect along the article here. And that you use cables exclusively. And now we also have the bull worker, which is a little more recent. I have a couple of them, and I have the chest expanders, and I have the bands, and I have the stretch bands, the loop type bands of different strengths. And of course, they were used heavily with West Side Barbell with their compensatory acceleration, where they're attaching bands to barbells, which is a whole other situation. And maybe we'll do a video on that going forward. Upright rowing. Now the picture that I have here is actually Clancy Ross. Now you can see his hands are. That is not really an upright row, but if his hands were the other way around, with palms forward, that would be more like an upright row. That is a really cool spring set, and I've never seen one of those In reality, I wonder if anybody out there has any of those. That would be a pretty cool thing to have. And I guess there's probably some source where you could get these springs and kind of put your own thing together. Um, but there are certain advantages to cables, and now you see that they have the Harambe system and X3, which are both pretty expensive, but it's basically just loop type bands. I think you can also use the tube types with them, but it has like a bar and attachments and stuff, and they are pretty pricey. Now, I do not deny that they are worthwhile pieces of equipment to have. There's Joe Bonomo. Joe was mostly in the 40s, also in the 50s, but he had quite a few of these little booklets, and he had his own cable course. And it's mentioned both by Park and Grimek that cable expander sets were very, very popular in the old days, and they seem to have fallen out of favor. Um, I have seen guys selling more modern ones that are very heavy duty and not that inexpensive. But the ones, and I honestly, sorry, I don't even have the information. Perhaps we'll cover that in a future video. Here it talks about that, cables were very popular back in the day. This is Earl Lederman. Now he did a lot of different things, but he did. You see him doing some self-resistance stuff. He does some body weight stuff, and of course he does some cables. Also talk about this guy Charles McMahon, who's an old school guy who's from like the 30s, and he was in pretty good shape, and he had a set, with where you could use up to 20 bands. That's the other thing. They're very versatile. You can use, one light band all the way up to multiple heavy bands. There's Fred Rollon, who's I believe mentioned by Grimek in his article, and this another old school guy, and he did the muscle control stuff too. But that development you see on him, he said he got that mostly from using these expanders. Now, both of them suggest, there's Joe Bonomo again, and both of them suggest, of course, not getting rid of barbells or anything, but that to use them in combination is a pretty good idea, and that's what Alex Leonidas does, and I think it's a good idea. There's Alfred Danks, another old school guy, had his own cable course, and there were a lot of them out there, and honestly there's probably not a dime's worth of difference between any of them as far as what exercises they're doing, but you can kind of make up exercises with bands and cables, and there's a pretty cool set, and you see there he has got that thing where you attach to a wall or to a doorknob or something, and it has multiple stations. And Reg mentions that he was going to do an article on using that, which unfortunately I don't, at least at the moment, have access to. If I come across it, we'll do another video. There's another ad with the horseshoe and then crusher grip thing. Just basically a metal bar that you can bend back and forth. And again, it talks about the convenience of cables being easy to carry, with a little story about Eric Peterson walking around with a bag with weights in them. Now, this Samson Twister, I actually have one of these. That thing is killer. There's different variations of these twisters, and there's lighter ones and heavier ones. That heavier one is no joke. It's really hard to close. I can't close the one I have, that heavy duty one. There's another ad out of the York thing, and you see the guy at the bottom looks like he's doing either upright rows or front raises, which are a little bit different. They're both described along the way here. But I think it's a good idea to, if you have cables, and if you don't, you can always get the bands. They're reasonable. You can get them from a lot of different people. There's some different exercises shown with this set. hey, $11 for that set with the cables, and then it comes with a jump rope and all this other stuff. That was a pretty cool deal back in those days. I wish you could still get that deal now. And again, it talks about the different unusual things that you can do. Grimek again was big on the rubber ones, saying that they're more adjustable to the individual. He talks about having shorter arms and longer arms and the disadvantages, and he actually says it's an advantage to have shorter arms with cables in general. Then we're going to move into the exercises themselves with the Grimek article, and there's going to be some pictures. They're all mentioned. It says see photos above, but they're not above. They're coming along. And there he is doing it's like the archer's pull, and then the pull behind the back. See, Grimek was in pretty good shape. I think this article was older. I think this was actually from like the late 40s. So the picture quality isn't tremendous, but you know, it is what it is. These are from scanned out of old magazines, so they're not going to be super. And that's there's going to be a couple more slides of Grimek doing these exercises that are described. He's doing the chest pull, he's doing the one behind the back, and obviously that picture to the right, he's got the cable attached to something overhead and doing like a pull down. Obviously a shoulder thing. He's doing the overhead shoulder pull apart, and looks like the front raise where he's stepping on it at the bottom. But again, no lower body, not even lower back or legs exercises are in there. So there's a really good article that's on the Dillo blog. It's actually an entire booklet that was created by an old friend of mine from one of the forums that I used to frequent back before we had YouTube and Facebook and all this stuff. Here we go into some of the modern bands with handles, just tube type, with some leg exercises here. This one is like lunge forward and then lurch back on one leg. Pretty self-explanatory. And there he is, just stepping on it in front, which, you know, they have boards and you can kind of make your own thing, which are a little better than just stepping on them. But then he's doing there's abduction and adduction, which you can do, which are shown here. These are from just an ad from one of these tube type manufacturers. There he's just doing a squat. And there is the cable front squat, and that is with an actual expander type cable, but it looks like they're just using one spring, and it suggests using like a broomstick or something like that to put in the top one and hold for doing the front squat. Then you got the good morning, talks about, again, that was just a description. And that pretty much covers it, and I thank you again for watching. I hope, I thank you for all those recent people that have subscribed. I hope if you like the videos that you'll hit the likes, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I'm out. Thank you.